on strike from finishing that game out. Kind of looked
Yeah.
it looked like kind of innocuous at first. Wasn't really sure what was happening there. Does turn out to be a UCL injury. Of course, anytime you hear that, you're like either Tommy John surgery or a lengthy rest and rehab. So you have to expect that Batista is out for the rest of this season. Hopefully, not all of 2024. I don't know if there's a lot of actionable fantasy advice to give here because Yannier Cano is basically rostered in 3/4 of Yahoo leagues, for example. Uh,
Hmm.
but again, that shortens that bullpen a little bit. I know they did call up DL Hall, but I guess short term fantasy and then long term for the Orioles as they look ahead to a playoff run. Paul, what does this mean for that bullpen?
I think it might cut into some win probability for some of those guys that we've been running out there, namely a Kyle
Yeah.
Bradish, who I really like. Cano should be able to fill in pretty admirably. He doesn't miss bats at anywhere near the clip that Bautista does. In fact, I think it's a 50% rate, which speaks more of Bautista than it does against Cano. He's just under 1K per strike per inning for
Mhm.
Cano, but Bautista crazy 110 strikeouts in 61 innings. He was excellent this year. So Cano should fill in the ninth nicely, but the problem is, of course, is that bridge. It becomes a little bit
Mhm.
shakier. They also sent out Michael Bauman, who that was a little bit surprising. I know he's got an ugly walk rate, which is a problem at 12%, but I was surprised that he was sent out. DL Hall was called up. He's kind of a game changer, right? Because if he can spike hot for a month and a half here, then they'll barely miss Bautista. But that's a big if, and that's a big ask for him. So I do think it cuts in a little bit of the win probability for your Grayson Rodriguez's, your Kyle Bradish's, and then when you're streaming your Kramers, Gibsons, and Irvins, which they've all had some streamer viability this year. So I think that's the biggest hit is a little bit of win probability because the bullpen, the bridge to Cano is shakier.
Yeah, I think it also just adds a little bit if you're in like a keeper league situation where Yunier Cano, there's a chance that he may actually be the closer in 2024 if the Bautista injury goes the way of Tommy John, which again, as of right now, we don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a possibility while there's all these question marks, if you're in a situation where you can get Cano thinking that he might be the closer for 2024, also depending on a league, if you're in a keep 7, keep 8, 9, whatever type of situation where the person who has Cano or, where you can pick him up on the wire if you're in one of those 25% of leagues where he's available, where that's just added value. But again, like you mentioned, DJ, most places he's on a roster, most leagues trade deadlines passed. So there's not a lot to do here other than just understand the consequences.
Yeah, I was at Camden Yards last Tuesday night, and I did get to see the Felix Bautista entrance with all the lights and stuff. It was a pretty cool show, and I remember talking to my brother about the Orioles and the prospect of a postseason run for them. And at the time, we're like, oh, Cano, Batista at the end of games, like we may see a lot of like 4 inning starts from some of their starting pitchers as they go to their strength and their bullpen.